It was a Sunday morning, and the sun had started to shine, as if indicating that it was not on holiday. Its beams of rays touched each and every one who was already emerging from their houses. Some were going for their morning walks, some were busy reading newspapers, and some were in kitchen, busy preparing food for their beloved families. Malini was also in the kitchen, searching for some ingredients to make her delicious and healthy breakfast. She sighed when she found that some of her tins, which stored her grocery items, were already empty. She felt as if the tins had shrugged, indicating that they couldn't help her if she didn't give them their contents. She went to the living room, took a notebook, and tore a page from it. She began to write down 5 items on the same. She folded the paper and started towards the room. She knocked on the door and called, Sweetheart, come out. Mom needs a favor. Siddharth, a 17-year-old son of hers, snuggled inside the bed sheets. He slightly tilted his head, cleared his throat, and said, It's Sunday, Mom. She smiled and replied, Yes, dear. So I need you to go out and buy something. Only then can I nourish you with your favorite food. Siddharth smiled and said, Mom, you always know how to get your work done. She replied with a smile, Because I'm Siddharth's mother. She told him that she had kept the list along with the money on the dining table. He said, all right, I'm coming to help you nourish me with my favorite food. Siddharth saw the folded paper and money beside it. He went out of his house, closing the door, knowing that the neighborhood uncle's cat always liked to explore his house with its honorable presence. When he came out, he saw the newspaper boy whom he always waved at. Both exchanged their friendly gestures. While on his way down the road, he unfolded the list that his mom had given him. It had bread, butter, tomatoes, potato chips, pepper, and cooking oil. Siddharth mumbled, For just 5 items, a full page is really necessary? He suddenly bumped into a lamppost. He flinched with pain and said, Oh man, Siddharth, what has gotten into you? It hurts. He glanced at the lamppost and kicked it once again. He felt dizzy, so he went near the wall of the house. There he saw an open window, near which an elegant rose plant was waving at him, as if inviting him. He just smiled and said softly, You are very pretty, Miss Rose. Suddenly, a voice reached him from inside. He sat down to avoid giving the impression that he was eavesdropping. The voice touched his ears again. It cried, Mom, where are you? Ask Dad to give me the remote. I need to watch my favorite show. Another male voice reached his ears, saying, Not possible. Yeah, go complain to your mom. The girl shouted, perhaps trying to grab the remote from her father's hand. Some sounds related to the same reached him. Siddharth smiled and thought about his remote snatching episodes in his house during cricket matches. The girl, perhaps around 15 years old, assumed Siddharth, because in between the remote snatching scenes, her father asked her to concentrate on her board examinations in a week and to respect others' needs as well. Suddenly, a soft voice reached his ears. He closed his eyes to concentrate more on this person's dialogue. She, perhaps the mother of the girl, told her to calm down, and some dialogues were exchanged. But Siddharth couldn't eavesdrop on it. He thought, This idiot cooker whistling at the wrong time everywhere. He tried to get up, but suddenly felt some footsteps are approaching. He pressed himself against the window so that no one from inside could see him. He heard the soft voice of the mother who had actually solved the issue inside. He felt like seeing her face, but he could not get up right now and give her the impression that he was eavesdropping for some minutes. He was suddenly brought back to his senses by the same voice. He listened to the words. I just feel like not existing for both of them. One always eager to watch some favorite episodes, another always eager to watch business news. whereas I'm not even given a chance to watch my favorites. She talking to the rose plant? Assumed Siddharth. In order to confirm that, the soft voice continued. My dear rose plant, you're lucky to be here on this planet as a plant. If not, even you would be moved to a position in the house where you are invisible to your family members, but all their work needs to be fulfilled by you. Do you think it's possible? Hearing these words, Siddharth again assumed. Maybe the rose plant is still waving at her with confusion because Miss Rose cannot translate human language. Again, the voice continued. Maybe some magic happens today and they will know that I'm a human being and I too have favorites. She just sighed, and Siddharth heard nothing more. He assumed that she would have gone. Siddharth felt sorry for this unknown mother. He thought about his own mother and how sometimes he treated her with the same gestures as the family members in this house. He felt sorry and felt like crying. He suddenly wished to see his mother right now, to hug her and say sorry for all his mean dialogues and cold behavior towards her. But the list in his hands smiled. He felt like doing something here in this family to become the magic that could at least try to change something here. He crawled on the ground to cross the window and stand back to think about what to do. As he was crawling, he saw two tiny feet pointing towards him. He heard some giggling noise. He looked up with an embarrassed look and saw the tiny figure of a little girl. Sunlight made his vision somewhat limited, and his position added an air of mystery to the little girl. She giggled at him. He managed to stand up and said, Shh! The little girl imitated his gesture and smiled. He saw her little hands holding some sketch pens. Suddenly, an idea touched his brain. He smiled and asked her, Shall we write something? The girl smiled and nodded. Siddharth teared his paper into two equal halves. He folded his paper with a list of grocery items and kept it in his jean pocket, and took a sketch pen from the little girl and started to scribble something on the other half of paper. The little girl tried to read the letters, to which Siddharth smiled and asked, Can you give this to the girl in the house? He pointed his finger towards the house, and the little girl asked, Is Shani sister? Siddharth thought for a while and asked, Yeah, how many sisters do you have in that house? The girl folded all her fingers on her right hand, except for one, and showed it to him with a giggle. So Siddharth smiled and said, Yes, then give this to your Ishani sister. The girl started to run towards the house with the letter. Siddharth stopped and thanked her for her sketch pens and the small service, indicating the letter in her left hand. The little girl replied with innocence in her eyes, It's okay. He just smiled at this little wonder standing near him. He asked the little girl, What's your name? The girl now became serious and said, Life. Siddharth smiled and asked her, What? She replied, I have a dictation test tomorrow, so I'm busy. By saying these words, she ran towards Ishani's house. Siddharth now fixed himself behind the bush so he could see the whole scene, but no one from inside could clearly see him. His heartbeat started to rise for some inexplicable reason. Still, he thought, My intentions are good, so I'll be safe. The door swung open and Ishani appeared. She saw the little girl, and Siddharth now saw Ishani. She was tall, had curly hair, and was in a peach color frock. She received the letter from the little messenger and started to read. Her happy expression began to fade as if she had been slapped in the face. She kneeled down in front of the little girl. She asked something, but Siddharth couldn't hear the dialogues. The little girl pointed towards the bush where he was standing. Tension rose in him as he started to move from there. Suddenly, he heard the little girl telling rhythmically, L-I-F-E, and said something about her dictation test tomorrow. Siddharth smiled and ran towards the grocery shop. He was running with a smile and as well thinking about the little messenger's reply to every question the same. He got all his items and was now returning in the same route. He wondered, what if the little girl is ready with Ishani to catch me? Or what if the letter didn't work? Or what if some nosy aunties from neighborhood mistake my intentions and accuse me? He once again thought, if your intentions are good, you'll be safe. He just smiled, and now he saw the same lamppost that had made him the silent messenger in Ishani's life. His curiosity was provoked once again on seeing the open window. He crossed the road and walked towards the window, where he overheard the dialogues of an unknown mother or wife. He took his mobile and started to scroll through messages in order to avoid someone else getting suspicious on his acts. His friend Rohan had sent many picture quotes, but he wasn't interested in opening any of them right now because he needed to know the effect of a silent letter. He now mustered up the courage to look into the window. He now saw the rose plant, which was waving at him, maybe asking him to stop his eavesdropping business. But Siddharth said to the plant in a husky voice, my intentions are good, so I will be saved. His conversation with Miss Rose was interrupted by the smiles of the family members. The soft voice which he had heard before was now in a happy tone. She was asking Ishani, perhaps, how did you suddenly think about my favorite film? To which Ishani smiled and said, life reminded me in a beautiful manner, Mom. He told me everyone got their favorites, so I thought about it. To which her mother laughed. Siddharth was struck by Ishani's words and he repeated them like a poem. Life reminds me in a beautiful manner. Life reminds me in a beautiful manner. Suddenly, his phone vibrated, making him move away from the window. He started to walk towards his house, but Ishani's words were ringing in his ears. Suddenly, the notification sound of a message caught his attention. He, for some unknown reason, had a strong urge to open the picture code from Rohan, his friend. He clicked the image and the picture downloaded at an instant. The code he read was, everything happens for a reason? Siddharth smiled and said, yes, life has its way. He, he just typed thank you to Rohan with a smiling emoji. He reached his house, opened the door, and handed over the items to his mother. Malini just kept the pack of items with a puzzled look. She seemed to see something different in her son's face. She asked him, what's making you so happy? To which Siddharth hugged her tight and kissed her cheek. He softly said, I'm sorry for being mean at times, Mom. Malini smiled and touched his head. She told him, it's all right, sweetheart. She patted his shoulder and asked him to go and see in his room. Siddharth was already overwhelmed with today's adventures. He walked towards his room with inexplicable emotions. He saw a gift wrapped in golden color. He opened it to find his favorite watch, the one he had longed to have but never thought he would receive it today. He couldn't stop his tears of happiness. He couldn't control his legs. He is already in kitchen, hugging his mom from behind, and is asking her, how did you know that I love this and I wanted this? His mom replied, you were talking to Rohan about this watch the other day when he was here for a combined study. I heard it, so I ordered it 2 days ago. Siddharth could not control his happiness. His mother smiled and asked, do you want to starve today? Siddharth was confused by this question and asked, why, Mom? To which she answered, if you hold me like this, how am I going to prepare food? By saying this, she laughed and Siddharth joined her, saying, okay, now I release you, my dear Queen Mother, for helping you nourish me with my favorite food. She replied, yes, my dear little prince. Siddharth walked back to his room, sat on the bed, with several thoughts surfacing his mind. He thought,
What all things happened from just 2 hours after waking up today?
He just thought about how he helped some unknown family members communicate their problems. He felt happy. He thought about the little girl and her dictation words. He just smiled and thought about Ishani's words.
Life reminds me in a beautiful manner.
He thought.
Is life really talking to me? If so, how is it even possible?
He smiled. He thought about his unexpected gift that was embracing his wrist right now.
How did you enter my life in such an interesting manner?
He asked the watch, but it replied nothing, but busy ticking away seconds and minutes to reach the destination of our, showing zero interest in human affairs. Suddenly, his phone caught his attention with a notification tone. He sighed and mumbled.
And now Rohan wants to tell me something.
He clicked the picture message and it downloaded. He read the code.
Life is a boomerang.
He whistled and said,
Oh, this is crazy. It is as if real life is talking to me. Oh my god!
Siddharth's mother called him to have food, and he rushed out of his room, still elated from his magical conversation with life. The end. So, friends, I really hope you enjoyed the story. So, take all the lessons that Siddharth learned. Maybe life is not only talking to Siddharth, but is now really talking to you in some form of characters. So, give it a thought. By telling you all this, your moon friend is vanishing with a very last question to you guys. Friends,